All right, we'd like to call the June 11th ARB meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chief Thornton.
Here.
Chief Kenyon.
Here.
Jonathan Warner. Ken Kirkland.
Here.
Wendy Treadway.
Here.
All right, next on the agenda is approval of the May 24 minutes. Those were sent out. Is there any questions? I have a motion to approve those.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kenyon.
Aye.
Kirkland.
Aye.
Treadway.
Aye.
Minutes were approved. We're not showing any old business on the agenda. Is there any old business anybody knows of? Also, no new business. Is there any new business anybody wants to bring up? All right. Chief Phillips, can you give the DFR monthly report?
So for DFR stats for May, we were dispatched to 289 emergency response, hot response calls. Of those, 288 of them, we arrived within 9 minutes, giving us a 98% fractile. In the PJ, we were dispatched to 17, and we arrived at all of those within 100 in 13 minutes. For the MS coordinators report, you have the numbers in front of you. May was a pretty big, decent month. 1,454 calls for ambulance service overall in the city. You see those broken down there by category types. Did not have the stats for rolled calls at the time that this was printed off, but I did just find out that there were 0 rolled calls within the city. For May, on time exemptions submitted, there were 2 time exemptions submitted to us, and both of those were denied to not be founded for exemption from the standard. And then we had no reported equipment or vehicle failures.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Chief. Tyler?
So I have not got a report submitted because I just got my stats from 911. Apparently there was an email issue. We responded to a total of 1,466 calls. We did a total of 1,178 transports. In the city for the Bravo, Delta, and Echo, we responded to 314 calls. We met 303 of those within the time standard. That put us at 97%. In the PJ for the Bravo, Delta, and Echo, we responded to 26 calls and met all of those. That put us at 100%. For the Alpha, Charlie, and Omega calls in the city limits, there were 307 calls. We met all of those, putting us at 100%. In the PJ, the Charlie, Alpha, and Omegas, there were 19. We met all of those, putting us at 100%. We rolled 0 calls in the month of May, and we responded to 11 calls outside of our normal response area.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Tyler. Next on the agenda is discipline reviews. Chief Phillips.
So in May, Decatur Morgan EMS submitted their first quarter reports for January, February, and March of 2024. In those first quarter reports, their fractile times for the first quarter in the PJ were below 90%. So on May 12th, I issued them financial penalty 24-01, notifying them that they would be assessed $5,000 financial penalty, and that I was going to recommend to the ARB that 5 points be applied. There has been some questions that have arose because of that. And since then, we've done some research and discovered that something that we originally thought was the council intent when, if you remember in 21, late 21, the council approved to lower financial penalties by cutting them in half. And the intent to our memory was that the point total would be cut in half also. We use Municode a lot online, which is where the copy and paste part of this financial penalty notification came from, and it doesn't always update appropriately. Mr. Warner had called into question why the copy and paste part was different than what I stated I was going to recommend, and since then we've done the research and we're unable to find where that official action had been taken. So
I think it's important to clarify, being in the meeting at the time, it was my understanding that they, and I think in practice, even though at the time we would have said they were not authorized to, it was reduced to 5,000 and to 5 points. And it was my understanding that they intended to do that going forward. And I think Chief Phillips has also checked, and that when it has been issued since then, it has been at 5,005. So in practice, we did it. It was our belief that the council had ordered it, and I just assumed that it was a delay in Municode showing up, because it took several months for the 10,000 to be dropped, and I didn't go back and look at it. And with this coming up, I checked, and it's still there. We're going to have to fix that, but that's my understanding of what the council intended. And on the chance that that's not what they intended, it's still the board can, if that was not their intent, the board can still do the 5,000, which is per ordinance. They can assess 5 points should you desire.
So are you going to check about getting the ordinance updated to what it needs to be?
We're going to try to, I'll find out from them what their intent was, and if that's their intent, go ahead and change it, and because we're doing those other amendments, and it would just be part of that.
All right.
From a practical standpoint also, all financial penalties, like he said, that have been issued since then were at that standard, but the last financial penalty that was issued, 5/9/22, is 2 years old, and so it has fallen off. So this would be the only financial penalty that would be on their record at this point. So I would assume that if it's applied at 5% and then the correction can be made, or if it's applied at 10%, it still keeps Decatur Morgan within the financial penalty limits upon nothing in the ordinance spurs action until it's at 25 points. So they're still well below the point value. So it's almost a mute issue. because this will apply for 2 years, and then it can be addressed.
So, since the EMS director has assessed 5,005 points, we have to vote, we have to get a motion and a second to vote on that.
To hold it or to reduce it.
So
Okay.
actually, so I assess the financial penalty, you guys apply the points. I stated that I was, in the notice, I was recommending a 5-point assessment, but I don't actually, the EMS coordinator actually does not assess it. The ARB actually assesses those.
Okay.
So it's your decision.
Do I have a motion for this?
What was their response time?
They were,
It was 82% in the bid.
Is there any information that you could give us about why it was 82%? Is there something that was happening that,
So, I mean, I think you can look and you can see, so, for the PJ, in January, we were at 74%, in February, we were at 81%, in March, we were at 92%. We made changes to our posting plan each month. We also were able to hire some more staff in those, which was part of what caused that. Also, I had some time exceptions that Chief Phillips and I were looking at. We weren't exactly sure if all of them had been figured into those stats, but even, it still wasn't going to put us at 90%. It would have put us closer, but we still wouldn't have been at 90%. You know, I think if you look at April and at May, you can see where we've made adjustments. And yes, we did miss it for the quarter. You know, part of that was, some of that was staffing, some of that was just location of where our trucks were, and that's where we made those changes at.
The weather impacted January, didn't it?
Weather did impact some of that. That was some of the response time exceptions that we had. And I think there was maybe one that got denied. That was, I have them right here that we could look at.
The week of
yeah,
ice.
there were 12 total submitted in January, so and all of those were weather related. Not all of those, I'm sorry, the majority of those, 10 were approved. There was one that wasn't.
And when we went back and looked at some of this, Samantha had sent out a spreadsheet for the quarter, and I think it only showed like 11 time exemptions on there for the quarter. I think we had 14 that had been submitted, so I got an email.
They're all on there.
They're all on there. Okay, so that may have just
They're all
been,
on the corrected one with April.
so that should be right then if they were all in there. But you know, like I said, we did miss it. We own that. We made the adjustments we feel like we needed to make. You know, I think you can see that since then, where we're making improvements in February and March. We've been above the standard since March. So I don't know if that answers your question completely or not, but
all right, I think it helps. Thank you.
I'll make a motion for 5 and 5.
Have a motion for 5,005 points. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second. Is any discussion?
And I'll just say, you know, going with 5, I think it was from being on that, I kind of remember the same thing he was talking about, how they did cut a lot of that in half. So I'm fine with looking at 5,000, or the 5 points on that.
Okay. Roll call.
Kenyon,
Yeah.
Kirkland.
Yeah.
Treadway.
Yes.
All right. I'm not showing anything else on the agenda. Has anybody else got anything that they'd like to bring up today? All right, now I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.